Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We'll start with in the name of Allah, Al Ghani, Al Jame, the gatherer of all and the self sufficient. Right. Today we will discuss Pakistan's agriculture. Uh, Pakistan's agriculture sector. Right. The learning objective of this topic would be we will study green revolution. Then we will discuss land reform, agriculture growth in past few years, problem challenges to agriculture sector and their solutions. Green revolution and reforms. It would be better to say that one of the most important event in Pakistan agriculture history is the Green Revolution, right? It forms a watershed between the old and new Pakistan. While the mid 1960s are in many ways an important juncture in our history, present day Pakistan may have its root in the Green Revolution. A lot more has happened since the mid 1960s to make Pakistan what is today. Green Revolution, two important events we will discuss: Green Revolution and land reform, which is resulted in the transformation of agriculture sector. Green Revolution refers to the phenomena of spectacular rise in agriculture product, particularly in the production of wheat and rice in the late 60s and early. The annual growth rate in agriculture between 1949 and 1958 were a mere 1.43%, less than half of the annual growth rate in population. Agriculture was allowed to stagnate in 1950 because the ruling elite believed at that time that it was essential to industrialize all the cost and at great speed. Government policies were heavily biased against agriculture, and it was only toward the end of the 1950s when it became clear the growth in agriculture was necessary for the survival of the country. This figure show the growth rate in agriculture in 1950 and 1960 and indicates a marked change between the two decades. Between 1959 and 1964, agriculture grew at an overall rate of 3.7%. But this impressive rate was overshadowed by the even greater 6.3% between 1965 and 70. Between 1966 and 67 or 8, the year when the Green Revolution was at peak, agriculture output grew by 11.7% and it maintained a high growth rate of 9.6% in 1969 to 1967 70. However, uh, were these rates achieved? The phenomenal increase in the growth took into two phases. In the first 1960 to 1965, the main cause of growth was the increase in irrigation facilities, mainly tube well. The second phase between 1966 to 1970 showed impressive growth when the expanded irrigation facilities were supplemented by the technology package of high yield variety seeds, chemical fertilizers, and pesticides. Essentially, then it was a complete package of water, seed, fertilizer, and pesticides that caused the large growth in agriculture output and production. Green revolution, we divided into the spectacular growth in agriculture took into two phases: 1960 to 1960, fiscal year of 1964. Average growth rate was 3.7%. The main reason is because of the increase in irrigation facility, mainly tube well. Between 1961 and 1965, 25,000 new tube wells were installed. Farm areas survived. Farm areas serviced by tube well, double tube wells, right? In 1965 to 1970, average annual growth rate was 6.3%. The main reason was high yield variety seed for wheat and rice, chemical fertilizer and pesticides, which already discussed these issues. Green revolution was at peak between 1967 to 68. Overall, most important ingredients of the green revolution technology package was availability of water as and when required. Um, Factors behind the Green Revolution was the prime vehicles of change, the massive switch over to high yield variety, consumption of fertilizer, threefold increase from 111.8 thousand tons to 381.9 thousand tons in 1967 to 72. Area covered by plant protection 1.7 million spray acres to 4.14 million tube wells and tractor. Impact of green revolution could be divided into four categories. Like increase, it can increase the productivity and avoidance of economic stagnation, employment displacement impact, impact on income distribution, and an impact on regional disparities. Increase in productivity uh, can be in various forms, like in fruit crops, which helped overcome food crisis in many developing countries. It can avoid possible shortage and large scale starvation in Asia and Africa. Employment displacing effect can be because of the mechanization of agriculture process. Employment could be displaced. Uh, World Bank and Asian Development Bank reported that the introduction of a new tractor on average displaced 10 annual manual worker. Right? Impact of economic distribution. Impact of negative influence on economic distribution. The success of high yield variety depends on the optimal and simultaneous various uses of fertilizers, water, and pesticides. Small farmers did not have sources to purchase these inputs, and large farmers had easy access to credit, canal, water supplies, and other extensive services. Now we will discuss, should agriculture income be taxed in Pakistan or not. There are two arguments. Some support that agriculture should be taxed, or some argument says that it should not be taxed. The benefit of doing taxes, government need to increase the tax to GDP ratio from rupees 250 to 300 billion of revenue could be earned. Put the tax in promoting agriculture, uh, giving the money to small landlord. We can these are the argument for taking in agriculture income, right? Make, how could we tax them? Make the agricultural tax progressive. Progressive tax mean low income class to high income class in nature. Agriculture shouldn't be treated important as compared to other sector. uh, like argument against taxing agriculture income are, it will discourage small landowners. Percentage of large land holding has been decreased due to inheritance law. Collecting agriculture tax is complex. The costs have already gone up due to the removal of many subsidies and 17% imposition of value added tax. There could be food inflation. There's a possibility of unemployment.